disposal for the food. Okay? It is a garbage disposal, but it is a special disposal that is picked up every day. Okay? So it's proper disposal of the food. Then that's governed by law. If that makes sense, there is a law that regulates that. A second type of waste would be fats and oils, grease, and there are specific dispensers. They're called tallow dispensers. You've seen them out in the TALLOW, and you've seen those in the back of restaurants. Okay, and those are used in Hoover. The solution is that those are transformed into biodiesel. B-I-O, I think it's D-I-E-S-A-L.
You said the tallow thing?
The tallow and the oils. Okay, it's converted into gasoline, biological.
They drive cars with that, right?
They do. It's called biodiesel.
Yeah.
And so it's a biological source for diesel fuel, and all of the cop cars, all of the heavy equipment in the city of Hoover are run by this basically free fuel. Now, the school system doesn't do that right now, but there are collection points at houses, and there are collection points for restaurants, all in Hoover, and it's a big deal. This is not a comedy routine, okay? Third, we have paper waste, and that is recycled. We are still in the lunchroom.
Wait, it was waste, and then foods and fats counted as the second one?
That's a kind of waste. So there's food waste, and there's fat, and there's...
That's two problems.
Right, there's a second kind of problem, but it's all part of waste. And so another type of waste would be paper.
So does that mean we have 3 problems and solutions?
So far, 3 problems so far, and solutions, yeah. So our third one is going to be, our next is going to be paper, and that's recycle. That's our solution. Our last problem would be the fact that this has to be cleaned, and so the chemicals that are used to clean it and bleaches are biodegradable, and they're food-grade cleansers. So there's a higher responsibility to cut down contamination. That's why they have to be stronger, but they also have to be degradable. Okay, and so the solution is that they use the biodegradable. Okay, okay. All food systems, all food locations are inspected. So a big solution to all of this is the fact that there are local and county and statewide inspections. You know when you walk into a restaurant and there's a health rating?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, they get like 98s and 100s back here, so it's really clean. I don't know about any of you, but I used to work in really nice restaurants when I was in grad school. But one of the first things I did when I would interview there is I'd go back and look at the kitchen. Yeah. Well, if I'm working at a nice restaurant,
Are you the health inspector?
no. If I'm working at a nice restaurant and I'm serving really nice, expensive food or something like that, I want to know that the kitchen is clean, right? So it's important for there to be a good health rating. And there's one more. Let's go back to our food waste. I forgot to tell you one thing. There's one really good thing that we do here. You know, sometimes you'll go up to the lunch line and nobody wants to eat. Let's pick broccoli, okay? There's all this broccoli that's left. Well, if it's in a container and it hasn't been served, restaurants can wrap that up. And there's an organization called Second Harvest. I just couldn't say the name. It's called Second Harvest. And Second Harvest is a non-profit organization that will take the waste, the food waste, to homeless shelters and also to places where people are struggling, like non-profit organizations, like food banks and stuff. So Second Harvest is an organization. It's a solution to extra food. But you can't, it's not where if you just don't eat something, or it's not the stuff you throw away. Okay, yes.
What about germs, like coughing and sneezing, and sneeze guards?
That's a very good thing. So if you notice that this year we have the sneeze guards, and so because there are a lot of people to protect from infection. So one of the potential problems here is infection, right? It's another problem. Y'all aren't writing it down. Okay, it would be infection or communicable diseases, if you want to use another word. And one of the new solutions for that we have this year would be sneeze guards. You know what I'm talking about? Those glass things on the top?
They serve it over.
Okay? All right, so let's go to our next location. We're going to go down the hall. Are the offices. Our next location is the office, or it represents the offices in the school. And the schools produce the largest amount of paper and trash
in the world.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, I guess second would or close to it would become like large governments and stuff. But in the United States, schools, secondary schools and elementary schools, public schools produce a lot of paper waste.
So is that just recycling?
And so recycling would be the solution.
What about coffee?
Just a second.
Is our location school?
The location is the offices of the school. Okay, so the solution is to recycle, right? Or to use more electronic means. But, you know, we have to have paper because we have to have records, right? Okay, we also, yes, sir?
The energy run to use the computers?
Absolutely, absolutely. So our next problem is all of the digital media. And with that, we have problems due to the energy that it takes to run them, and also the toxic waste that is in each digital machine. Like your cell phones have something in them called coltan, C-O-L-T-A-N.
Coltan?
It's an important chemical. It's from Africa. It's highly toxic. But there's mercury and coltan in all computers and in all cell phones.
So wait, what is it? Is it produced?
So, okay, so our location is the office. Our problem is represented by the digital media, the computers, the printers, the cameras, the cell phones, all those things. And they have in their components, they have small amounts of toxic waste. That's why you have to dispose of them properly. So the solution is appropriate disposal. Location is the breeze line. I'm going to use that's why I stopped. It's the example of the design of the building. Okay, so somebody just said it was hot right here, right? All right, so we have lots of lights, right? Lots of light coming in with the windows. So that's actually air conditioning and heating. But this is an example of to have lots of natural light.
Northern light?
This lets in northern light, southern light, everything. So there's a lot of heat right here, correct? So to have a lot of light that's good for our learning environment, it adds a lot of heat sometimes.
That's the problem?
Yes, so the problem is that when you have a lot of light, it means that heat gets trapped in. Okay? So the solution for that would be, well, actually, if you look across there, what color are those windows?
Bluish.
They're tinted, right? So they reflect some of the light back. Okay?
So what, less tinted? Or tinted?
Okay, so the tinting is a solution to reflect. Right, so that keeps out some of the light so it doesn't get as hot in the car. So the fact that light gets in here is both good and bad. It adds extra heat, but it means we use less electricity for lighting. Okay? Y'all understand in the air conditioning? That's fine. So do you see what I'm saying? So the light can be both a problem and a solution. All right? If you remember back in the lunchroom, is that a really big building? I mean, a really big room? If you look up, there are skylights at the top of that ceiling because it lets in natural light. And that way you don't have to pay to heat and cool that big room. So that's a design factor. Also, we have pretty high ceilings in here, and so sometimes it helps with the lights, the circulation. All right? So there's another design factor that we'll talk about tomorrow. But I think that's all we have time for today. Okay? All right. Have y'all written that down?
Yes.
The athletic fields. Okay, so write that down, athletic fields. All right, so what might be a problem associated with the athletic fields that would be an environmental problem?
Like out there?
Uh-huh.
Chemicals.
Chemicals. What kind of chemicals? Fertilizers. There's something called pesticides and herbicides. So those are all different kinds of chemicals. You can walk through. Thank you for waiting. Pesticides,
They're fine.
herbicides, and fertilizers. And they wash off into the river, and that's what happened.
Cow bacteria.
Do you see the cows out there?
Manure, but
But they use manure like that to fertilize the grass, right?
But they do in some places, Evander, just not here. Okay, but that's a good thought. If this were a farm, we might have runoff from bacteria, right? Okay, so this is not. So the solution, we're going to write down this word, and then I'm going to explain it when we get in the room. You can walk on through. You can walk on through. Okay, guys, if you'll move from away from the things, from the air conditioning. All right, so the solutions are called best management practices. I'm going to explain those in the room, okay? But best management practices. One of those is also called a green buffer zone.
Is that the problem?
That's a solution.
bunker or buffer?
Buffer. B-U-F-F-E-R. Okay, so what do you see out there besides the fields that look like it's green?
Grass.
The grass and the trees beyond it. Just beyond the trees is where the Coppola River flows past our campus.
So where we have to go to get them?
When we go up to the Coppola River, we're either going to go in by the field and walk down and walk next to it, or we'll walk in down by the softball field and go down behind it, and that's where we'll get in down there. Okay, was a hand up? Okay. So that is the green buffer zone that I want you to remember when I talk about it in class. See that everybody see the trees from here?
That's why it kind of like split. You see, because my head on right here.
That's right. And so nobody can cut down those trees because there are that the distance away from the river is required by law.
A long way.
It's a long way.
That's right.
Okay? Okay? So that's the green buffer zone. Okay? And so what might be runoff here? Chemicals. But, so one of the solutions is the best management practices. Another solution is the proper application of chemicals. And I'll tell you more about that later also. Proper application or use of the chemicals. All right? So there's one more problem, and I want you to list this as a separate area. The football field.
That's a different location.
It's a different location. It's a different location, sorry. Has anybody ever stood on the football field since it's been new? It's really hot. So it's the artificial turf.
And it rub against your foot and get like 100. It gets like 135
Right.
degrees on that.
So it's the artificial turf creates, and in the middle section, the problem is called a heat, H-E-A-T, island.
Heat island.
Heat island. And I'm going to tell you more about that in the room, okay? It's called a heat island. All right? And I'm going to tell you more about that. What I want you to remember is that it's hotter. If you stand there, it's hotter, right?
It's so hot. We got like 9 water breaks in like 5 minutes.
Right, because it's really, it concentrates the heat. Because it's dark under dark under that green grass. It's really, really dark. So one of the solutions would be the best management practices. And for this one in particular, there's a drain that goes all the way. What is 2 floors up from here?
3rd floor.
3rd floor. What's on 3rd floor? C Hall.
Chemicals.
Chemicals, because what's up there?
Chemical
The science labs. Okay. So the next location, I'm not going to make you walk up 2 flights of stairs. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.
As if it's so bad.
I know.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. I heard you. All right, so the next location are the science labs on 3rd floor. The science labs on 3rd floor is the location. So we've already determined that one of the problems might be the chemicals. Okay. So one of the problems would be the chemicals. The solutions would be, for the liquid chemicals, what might be they have special drains, right?
Yeah, this one.
So it's special drains. But for all of those, one of the issues would be proper storage is the solution.
Like, do they have it under lock and key? Like,
Yes. Yeah. Chemicals are under lock and key.
So you can go in there and just grab what you want.
And the third would be, how many of you have been in one of the labs that has those things on the side that have it's called a hood or a flume hood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so that's for things that have fumes that are harmful.
Put them in there and it
and it
sucks them up. And
sucks
then
it
you
up.
can get
That's right. So it's better ventilation, and the flume hood those are also solutions to chemicals. All right. To the biological waste, you have to have proper disposal, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? So biological waste, proper disposal. There is one thing that's not as obvious. I need everybody to come back over here, please, so you can hear me.
Get off my board, Evander.
I know it was better.
Okay? So one of the things, where are the labs located?
Third
So they were
floor.
on third floor. Is there anything above them?
No, ma'am.
No.
Vents.
There are vents, but one of the reasons that biology, chemistry, and physics labs are on the top floor
So it can't burn.
are often in a separate wing are so if something burns or explodes, then it only goes up and not to other areas, right? So if we had a lab right here and it caught on fire and there were 2 floors above it, that would be a problem. All right? So the problem is potential fire and potential explosions, and the solution
The location.
would be the location or the design of the building. Okay? So one of it is on 3rd floor. In another building it might be a separate wing. So you understand the idea? That's designed into the building. Okay? We have one more location, and then we're going to go back in the room, and I'm going to explain best management practices. Parking lot. Your next location is the parking lot. All right, I want you to notice, do you notice anything about the parking lot? Does it slope that away from us?
Drainage.
Right, and so that's for the drainage. And I want you to think about it. Is the black top going to be hotter than the white concrete?
Yeah,
Okay. Are they both going to be hotter than the grass?
yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is called a heat island. Where else do we see a heat island today? The football field. Okay.
Is it because of the asphalt?
Because it's dark, all right? And so it's a heat island, and there's, what else is out here? Cars, right? And so cars leak gas and oil.
So our first problem.
So your first problem is a heat island. The second problem is runoff, gas, oil, particulates. Okay? And the solution for all of that are the best management practices that I told you about earlier, that I'm going to give you notes on that when we get back to the room. One other thing about the parking lot. If you put water on this grassy area, would it go through the grass and through the soil?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, it would.
Yep.
Okay, if you put water out there, it's eventually going to get steamy because it's so hot. But would it soak through?
No.
Okay, so that means it doesn't have any pores in it, no spaces.
Exhaust from the buses.
Hold that just a second. That's good. So the problem is that this is also an impervious, I-M-P-E-R.
Is this the solution?
It's a problem.
Impervious?
Impervious, I-M-P-E-R-V-I-O-U-S. An impervious surface, that means nothing can get through it that's liquid. We'll talk more about that. And the last problem is that there's air pollution out here. All right, so your problems are, it's a heat island, there's runoff, it's an impervious surface, and there's air pollution. / ozone. Okay, put / ozone.
And then when they cut in the grass.
Right, that's right. So the fumes from the mowers would also be like the air pollution. Very good. All right, so let's